Hey everyone, Kyle once again, and welcome back to the next movie review. And now back to reviewing. I would say, I would say this though, because I know I still haven't gotten my top, my top. I know I haven't done my top 10 best films of last year, right? But after I review this film, I'm just instead of making a top 10, I'm just gonna do my top three because there are films I liked, though, but I think just to save me time, since I'm late and all this again, I'll just gonna end up doing make my top three favorite films of this year. So, but after review, so I'm going to review this film before I do that video, so that way it'll save me time because since I reviewed that film already after this, then I'll have to go through the whole thing again. So it did get me thinking though, right? So for the next movie review I'll just do my top three favorite films of 2025. So since I'm already late on that though, but just to save me time though, but that is what it is. So I want to review one of the top three favorite films I enjoyed this year, and surprisingly enough, it's one of the adaptations from Stephen King. And this film got a lot of praise from critics. Has an 88% on Rotten Tomatoes, although it has a 6.7 IMDb. I think I'd give it a little more higher though. But um, a lot of people were talking about this, especially it was claimed one of the best adaptations from Stephen King in years. And I can see that though. So I'll be reviewing one of my favorite films of 2025, and that is of The Long Walk. Yeah. The Long Walk. It's based on, like I said, it's based on a novel from Stephen King from 1979. So this has been it's been a long upturn coming for this one to get adaptation since because I think that even from the late 80s, director George A. Romero, director of the Night of the Living Dead, right? He wanted to do an adaptation of this. So yeah, this is a film that has been in the works for quite a long time though. Although if George A. Romero was still alive, I would have been curious to see his version of this. You know, the Godfather of zombie films doing an adaptation of this. I would like to have seen that. I would have been curious and interested in seeing uh, George A. Romero's The Long Walk, based from Stephen King. So I would have been interested. I mean, hey, he did Creep Show, so I like that film. But The Long Walk, it came out in, of course, in the fall of 2025, and the film did modestly at the box office. I mean, it cost about 20 million worldwide. It made 63 million, and domestically in the U.S. made about 35 million. So it did modestly well, I would say. Compared to the other Stephen King adaptation that came out a little bit later, which I would say is one of the worst films of 2025, which I mentioned, The Running Man. So yeah, compared to Stephen King, I'm like, this is definitely easily better than The Running Man. So, um, and in the film is directed and now, really quick again with Stephen King. Like, I like a lot of the Stephen King films. Now I don't read much of the books because I wasn't really interested in reading those books. I mean, I get the logistics of it though. I can see why it said Stephen King as a landmark author. But I really enjoy the movies more. Can't keep this up. I guess off my knee like this, my cross leg like that so much. So go back. Tried going back to do it this way. But I enjoy a lot of Stephen King films. Growing, I mean, I Cujo. I enjoy Cujo was another great one. I love John Carpenter's Christine. Um, the Graveyard Shift. I enjoy. I think that's an underrated one. Cat's Eye. Um, Children of the Corn. I mean, it's okay. I mean, I'm not a fan of the sequels. I don't know why that became a franchise though. But the first Children of the Corn with Linda Hamilton is the only one I can tolerate though. Not the sequels. But Stephen King's, of course, when people say Stephen King's 1408 with John Cusack and Sam Jackson, I enjoy that film. Some of the later modern ones. The Mist, it's always a crossroads with me because of the ending, but I like Thomas Jane, as an actor. So I mean, and also one of the features you can on the DVD features you can watch the film in black and white, which is cool. You know, give that old eerie, back of the day monsters feel. You know, like them those those monster films from back then. You know, so give that a little nostalgia feel to it though. But I'm always at a crossroads with that film to be whether it's good or bad because of the ending. You know, so but. But I love The Shining, one of my favorite films of Stephen King. You know, I love The Shining, which yes, Stephen King he hates, which kiss my ass on that one. Of course, he hates. Of course, he disapproves a lot of it though. A lot of some of his film work. You know, he thought The Shining. Of course, Maximum Overdrive. He hates his own film, which. Sorry, you're Stephen King. Like you're full of shit. It was a fun B movie with the the Green Goblin truck. This the great soundtrack by AC/DC. I enjoy Emilio Estevez, you know, and just definitely a hell lot better than the other adaptation from your story Trucks called Trucks, that was made for cable, and that was shit. Yeah, Trucks. Yeah, Maximum Overdrive is the better adaptation than that's made for cable movie. That was shit. Um, I love Misery. Kathy Bates was awesome. Same with James Caan. I enjoy the It miniseries with Tim Curry as Pennywise the Clown. Not I hate the new It movies with, or I call it the shit movies with Peter Skarsgård, which Stephen King he praises more than the miniseries. He's always and also he also praises the new Running Man over the Arnold one, which I love the Arnold 87 Running Man film. Another favorite Arnold film of mine, but he hates that adaptation and he proves this one. Yeah, he's always kissing the new adaptations asses more than the older ones. But like I said, the Running Man, which I really enjoy, love one of my favorite Arnold films. Hey, Christmas tree. That always makes me laugh. Uh, but and speaking with it, you know, I saw the new episodes. Welcome to Derry, shit show. Okay, I've seen up to like episodes. I've seen up to episodes 1 through 4. Jeez, you know, I thought it couldn't have been as bad as. Well, I was going to say Alien because speaking of Alien, one of the leads here is starts from Alien Romulus. So I was gonna say that another shit franchise has gone down the drains because speaking of the shit show, they've seen episodes from Alien Earth, and that was a crap series. The new series Alien Earth. So two shitty series. Welcome to Derry and Alien Earth. But yeah, but I enjoy a lot of Stephen King's. Well, especially I love some of Stephen King's work. You know, from his books. I love Cujo, uh, Graveyard Shift, Christine, Maximum Overdrive, The Shining. Okay, I mentioned Carrie with the first adaptation from his work, Carrie. Sissy Spacek, you know, and uh, but I enjoy a lot of Stephen King. You know, Stephen King has done I like, but when it comes to the modern like Stephen King films filmed in this day and age now, right? I mean, like 1408, I enjoy, right? Like I said, the Stephen King's The Mist. Like I said, it's a crossroads with me. But like Cell, which reunites John Cusack with Samuel Jackson from 1408, that was not a good movie though. Like I said, I don't like the Running Man remake, and what was it? The Dark Tower. That was the one with Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey. That was not really that great either. Although it was like you rarely see Matthew McConaughey play a villain though, but still. But this film, The Long Walk, I think this is definitely one of the best adaptations from Stephen King easily. I mean, down here from discussing film, gave this film 5 stars, saying it's one of the most powerful Stephen King adaptations in years. And part I can definitely agree with. It's definitely a powerful film, you know, especially when it comes to the emotional concept of this, because definitely what made the film work is I felt the emotions, the heartbreak, and I enjoyed the interesting concept of this, and the bonding between the characters, not just especially the two leads, and even the other supporting characters on the long walk, I grown to like, and felt bad for, so I really felt emotionally involved with these characters. That's what probably made the film work for me, and so. And I've mentioned that it's directed by Francis Lawrence, who directed when his debut. He directed Constantine, one of my favorite DC films, Constantine with Keanu Reeves, which not people are not really fans of because they think that feel like that Keanu Reeves was miscast because he's not British. So what, They make changes from comic books all the time with comic book films. It's not a big deal. I enjoyed Constantine, another one of my favorite DC films. I feel like that's underrated a lot of times, with Rachel Weisz, Shia LaBeouf, Tilda Swinton, even Peter Stormare plays the devil. Francis Lawrence, I enjoy that film. He also go on to direct I Am Legend with Will Smith. I like that film, but which a lot of people don't like the ending, which I think people prefer the alternate ending instead. Which I heard they're doing a sequel to I Am Legend, in which they're gonna take. If they're doing a sequel to I Am Legend, they're gonna take it from the alternate ending where Will Smith lives, not the crappy ending that everyone not where everyone hates. So if that's the case, okay, go that route. Make a sequel that's from the alternate ending where Will Smith is alive. But I Am Legend. It's kind of like the remake of the I Am Omega Man with the original film with Charlton Heston, right? And I also like the sci-fi film from the Asylum with Mark Dacascos. So one of the very few film or one of the couple films I would say from the Asylum I like. The Omega Man. You have Mark Dacascos killing zombies with freaking nunchucks. Okay, that made it fun. So yeah, but I like the island. I Am Legend. I'm just not really big. I'm not really big on the Hunger Games franchise because he didn't direct the first one. That was Gary Ross. Francis Lawrence will go on to direct the sequels. Catching Fire, Mockingjay Part 1, Part 2. Even he's directing the prequels like what was it what was the prequel with the one the show the young Snow character what was it, the Reaping Snake, or what was it? Then Francis Lawrence is directing the next one, which I forget the title was though, but so he's directed the sequels of all the Hunger Games movies, not the first film though. But as a franchise, I'm just never can never get into though. Although one of the positive things I can say for the franchise, I like Donald Sutherland. Rest in peace to him though, right? Him just being the fierce President Snow, and especially what one of the things I can say about what was the ending of Part 2, Mockingjay Part 2. When he was talking to Donald Sutherland was talking to Jennifer Lawrence, which I'm not a fan of either. But it's just like it's just my dear Miss Everdeen, I thought we agreed to never lie to each other. And then when Jennifer Lawrence kills Julianne Moore, and he starts laughing because he goes because he's like that's something that he would expect from nothing expect more from Katniss, until the whole crowd just runs and just beats him to death though. But rest in peace to Donald Sutherland. He was definitely one of the few positives I could say about that franchise though, as President Snow. But I'm getting off topic on that because Francis Lawrence directed the sequels though. But I think he did a good job with this film. He did, and I think, and also what was it? Who did the score for this film? The music, because it fit the film well like a glove. Music by Jeremiah Freites. I thought the score was pretty good, especially when it fit the atmosphere and with some of the things happened, And the film went at a good enough pace. How long was this movie? It was 108 minutes without the end credits. But it went at a pretty good enough pace because I was, like I said, I was involved with these characters, just seeing them bond with each other, especially the two leads, but I was emotionally involved with the characters. That's why they made the pacing go on very well. And when some certain shit hits the fan, I felt bad, I felt just, oh man. So that's what this whole film was, is a big, long, emotional roller coaster ride with these characters for me, and that's what made the film. Now, in this, okay, I'm getting 15 minutes. I'm talking about the plot, but the plot is it takes place like in a kind of like a dystopian. When a dystopian, the word dystopian, where it's kind of like a future in a way, but it kind of looks like a world that's almost in ruins. Like in Dread, right? Dread, how the future of the city is. Many living in the ruins of the old world, like he would say, right? That type of dystopian feel to it, right? It's like that, but it takes place. I think it's in the in a dystopian version of the 1970s, which, I, which I hardly see like a futuristic world that takes place in that time. Because usually it's always like in the future, like in 20 something, right? But and there is and so the many of like how Carl Urban's Judge Dredd would say, many people living in the ruins of the old world. That's basically how I would put it. And many people are just poor and all that stuff. But there's this event that happens once a year, and it's called the Long Walk, where each person voluntarily, we should say, from each state, right? And they participate in this marathon called the Long Walk. It's a marathon where it's not just run, you just walk the whole way, right? And so one person from each state voluntarily, and they do this long walk from point A to point B. And when the winner is chosen, the last man standing, they get a shitload of money and one wish. Any wish you can think of, right? Just one wish. And so, but the rules are, though, you have to keep on walking until you get to the very end, right? If you like stray off the path, right, you get killed, because there are soldiers that are monitoring you. There are soldiers that are monitoring you, right? They're right alongside you on both sides of the road, like trucks and soldiers with guns, right? And let alone this is being recorded on live TV, right? This is happening on live TV. And so, be straight from the path, you get shot. If you slow down, you get a warning, right? Like if you stop, maybe if you stop to tell you shoot really quick or something like that, you get a warning, right? You get 3 warnings. You get on the 3rd warning. After the 3rd warning, you're dead. You get shot. So, and that's pretty much the rules, right? You have to keep on going and going. If you slow down anyway, like I said, your 3 warnings, you get shot, right? Anything you try to do, you will get shot. So, and it's being overseen and run by the Major, played by Mark Hamill. And the two leads, I think they both did a great job, right? What was the lead is played by Ray is the guy's name. He's played by Cooper Hoffman. I thought he did a really good job. And his buddy, well, because they're from each state, so they're not really buddies. They just met though. But the character Pete is played by David Jonsson. Now, David Jonsson, the last time I saw him, he was in Alien Romulus. That's why I mentioned Alien Earth, and also because one of the other leads in this is played by David Jonsson. He was the android from Alien Romulus. Which I gotta say, what I said before, I hated Alien Romulus. It was one of the worst films I've seen in 2024 when it came out. Yeah. Definitely one of the worst. I hated Alien Romulus, but I did say, though, he was the best character of the movie, though. And he was the only actor that was worth a damn in Alien Romulus, because Alien Romulus was shit. I hated Alien Romulus, which is further shows, and with what I've seen from Alien Earth, shows how far this franchise has gone down the shitter. The only good things were the first 2 Alien movies. So, but he definitely gave a much better performance in this movie. I really enjoyed his performance. He also did a good job as well. Which our two guys, Cooper Hoffman and David Jonsson, they did a really great job in this film. Because I felt the bonding between these two as becoming friends throughout this whole ordeal, and it was really just I was really emotionally invested in this with these two characters, and I was also emotionally involved with the other supporting characters while that was going on this long walk. Other characters like you have this guy. You can say he's a dick, but later on he kind of reforms himself. But I'll get to more into that afterwards, though. You have this Asian guy who is also foul mouthed as well, but he has like this rosary. He has this rosary with him. And you have this Native American, and you have this other kid. I think he wants to be an author because he wants to write a book, I think. And then some other people as well, though. So I feel bad for these other characters as well too. And Cooper Hoffman, his parents, the mom is played by Judy Greer. Judy Greer, she's been in other films as well. Um, what was it here? I know when I first saw her, Judy Greer was in Wes Craven's Curse, which I did not like. To me, it was a crappy werewolf movie. Definitely a step down from Wes Craven for me, though. But yeah, Judy. When I first saw Judy Greer, she was in Cursed with Christina Ricci and Jesse Eisenberg. But of course, she also starred in the newer Halloween trilogy. Well, not the third film because she died in the second at the end of the second film, Halloween Kills, but the first two ones I would say. And she's been quite a other few films. She's been in quite a other few films as well that I've seen her too as well. 13 Going on 30. That's another one I've seen her in as well. With Cursed, it was 13 Going on 30. But yeah, she plays the mom, and Rick Cooper Hoffman's character. His dad is played by Josh Hamilton. Now Josh Hamilton, who dies later in this film because of the major, because he was like I think his dad was like a political asset, and Mark Hamill shot him, and that's one of the reasons why Ray is doing this, because he wants to get revenge on Mark Hamill, the major. But Josh Hamilton, who plays the dad, if anyone knows, he appeared in the final season of The Walking Dead. He was the guy Lance. If you remember the 11th season of the final season of The Walking Dead, where the group of survivors, they reached the community of the Commonwealth. The governor of the Commonwealth, which was Pam, right? she had a I don't know if it was her assistant or other who worked for Pam, right? Lance, that's Josh Hamilton, who he was a snake in the grass, right? Where he tried to deceive and he ended up getting shot, and he got put in a cell and where the Pam's son got bit and got turned, right? She tells Lance, "Here, feed my son, her undead son now." And they tried, and like Carol and Daryl tried to get him out, right? But he tried to trick him again, and that's when no, Daryl didn't shoot him. I think it was Carol. Yeah, it was Carol who shot him in the neck with an arrow. And then later in the final episode, when they were at the gates of the Commonwealth, like Pam walks up to a zombified Lance, and so yeah. But that's Josh Hamilton, who played Lance from the final season of The Walking Dead. So he plays the dad in this, which, like I said, Mark Hamill, the major, got him killed, and that's the reason why Ray was doing this for revenge. So, but all that said and done, though, pretty much everything I enjoyed for pretty much most of it, though. One of the major problems I had with this film is the major himself, Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill, because you have all this seriousness, this serious drama and with the characters, the bonding of the characters, and all the intense stuff that's happening when people are getting shot, and some other stuff as well. All this seriousness, that's this drama and this thrills and stuff that's happening. And then you got Mark Hamill, who's being so over the top as the Major. He was awful in this movie. I'm like, there he is right there. He was just so god awful in this film. He was so, saying it bluntly, he was so shitty in this movie. Jeez, I think wish they could have got someone else other than Mark Hamill. I mean, in real life, he's a piece of shit, but his character and his over the top acting, he was shitty in this movie too. That just really just put a damper on of all the stuff that's happened, right? And we have Mark Hamill. No, he wasn't talking like that. He was trying to talk. He was being over top in a high, raspy voice, like, I want you to do this. And the thing is, though, Mark Hamill is not a good actor anyway, okay? If you take, other than that, he was good as Luke Skywalker in the original Star Wars trilogy, right? And he was great as the voice of the Joker in the Batman animated series, right? If you take those two things out, what else has Mark Hamill has done that was good, right? Not really. Even my dad said Mark Hamill is not that good of an actor, my dad says if it wasn't for the original Star Wars trilogy, he would have been a nobody. Okay? That was what my dad said, right? If it wasn't him as playing Luke Skywalker in the original Star Wars, he would have been a nobody. But other films, like, what other films have you seen that he was good in, right? I mean, of course, they ruined the character in the newer Star Wars trilogy, right? Skywalker, Rise of Skywalker, whatever, Last Jedi. Shit, how they ruined Luke Skywalker, but he was just a grumpy asshole anyway. And what other films, like John Carpenter's Village of the Damned, where he was a priest, he was not good in that. Other stuff. I know there's a film I've seen where he was not that good. I mean, my dad said he, what was it, Summer Covert Summer. It was the film. It was 78. He did it after the first Star Wars. It was him and Annie Potts. Annie Potts will go on to star in Ghostbusters. Convertible Summer was though, but even he thought he was not that good at all either. It's just like other films that me and Dad have seen him in. He sucked in those movies. If it was for Star Wars and for his voice as the Joker and the Batman anime series, if it was for those, Mark Hamill was a very shitty actor. He's a shitty actor, and let alone he's a shitty person in real life. So, but like what my dad said, though, right? If it wasn't for the original Star Wars trilogy, he would have been a nobody. So, yeah, he's great as the voice of the Joker in the Batman anime series. He's good as Luke Skywalker in the original Star Wars trilogy. But you take those out of it, though. What films he's done afterwards was good, right? For all I can see, none. And here, to see the further point, he was just being so over the top and so shitty, He was putting a damper on this. It's like all this going on, and he's the one who sticks out like a sore thumb in this movie. Being so over the top, campy, or should I say cheesy? I hate that word cheesy, but cheesy, campy, what do you say, and over the top, just like, either take that character out of it, though, or got someone else. He's like, talking like he's like talking a raspy voice, but higher pitch, right? He sucked. He was the major problem. Major pun intended. He was the major problem in this movie as the Major. So, man. But this the whole time, I enjoy the concept. I enjoy the concept of the film. Like I said, the acting is great, except for Mark Hamill. The acting is great. I felt I was emotionally invested in the film. I felt for the characters. and the characters okay, if we want to go for the characters that happens to these characters, right? We have like basically the dick, right? Or say the asshole, right? Like how he was doing, like, with this one contestant, right? Where he ends up where he ends up getting that one contestant killed, right? The soldier shoot him, right? And we see, like, he starts being more scared now, and he instantly has regrets of what he did, right? It's that sense of guilt that just came over him, right? And then when he stops, they try to make him keep on going, right? But the guilt was so overwhelming for him, he takes, like, a wherever was a shard or something, and he just cuts his throat. I'm like, damn, I'm like, he was being such a, all talk, like acting like a dick, but when that moment happened, we got that one guy killed. It just guilt and regret just swerved over him, and I just felt for that guy. Or when or with the native guy, right? Later on, right, where he tries to take a gun from a soldier and he shoots one soldier, but he ends up getting shot. He gets shot in the stomach, but then he ends up turning on the gun on himself. Or later with the Asian guy of the group, right? Which actually the guy Ben is played by Ben Wang. I think he's the guy who starred in the new the Karate Kid Legends movie. I think he was the next new Karate Kid. Sorry, but yeah, I think his name is Ben Wang. I think he was the new Karate Kid from the new from last year, Karate Kid Legends, with Ralph Macchio and Jackie Chan. I think that was him. But to, like, him, like, he has the rosary. He's carrying his rosary, right, and so he also tries to attempt to take a gun from them, but he gets shot in the stomach as well. And he gives Ray his rosary, to give him to his grand. I think it was his grandma, to give to him. And he later dies from that, and it's like, man, these characters are popping off. I'm feeling bad for these characters because, like, I'm just getting so emotionally distressed about these guys, because I'm feeling for them. And also, thing is, when they're going on these walks, what's gonna happen, because one of the guys gets a Charlie horse, right? And they try to, carry the guy as far as they can, because what can you do, right? Because you got to keep on going. You can't stop, because otherwise you're gonna get a warning, and then another warning, and then after that you're gonna get shot after the third warning. So, like, you get these situations like those, right? What happens if you get a Charlie, like the guy got a Charlie horse and they had to try to carry him on the way, or what you do see, which I don't think you didn't need to see, what happens if you need to go to the bathroom, right? What you do see, I'm not gonna say it, but I don't think you didn't need to see it, but I get the point though, right? So it does kind of answer your question. Now, what happens if someone all the time? What happens if you have to go to the bathroom, like, get a piss or shit, right? So you get situations like those, or questions you need to answer, right? So, but I said, it's just been a really grim. It's like you do get some intense scenes, like, jumping on though right ahead. There's this hill, right, which is a very intense scene where they have to go up this hill and just trying to keep upright and the pacing, and you get some people are getting picked off one by one. Or there was a grisly scene where, really enough, I'm like, oh, there was a scene where a guy gets his legs run over by a tank. I'm like, ah, just imagine how you. Well, that's why I saw someone get run over by in a Stephen King. That was Maximum Overdrive. It just reminds me, the kid got run over by a steamroller, right, in Maximum Overdrive. Well, here the guy gets his legs run. It just got run over by a tank, not the full body of the guy, but just the legs. I'm like, oh, just completely flattened by a tank. that was a kind of a pretty gruesome moment right there too. And um and you do, I mean, and also there is some bit of CG moments where when the soldiers, when they fire their guns, you see CGI flashbangs, right? I mean, I can let that go. I mean, just they're only split seconds though, but you can tell it's CGI flashbangs when the soldiers are shooting, right? I mean, I just wish they can do like that stuff for practical real instead of we showing them CGI flashbangs. But I can let it go because I'm really getting invested. I'm invested in these characters. So you do get a pretty intense moment in this though, and you see once again with Ray and Pete, right? Just bonding together and just feeling for these characters, and like how Ray wants to kill the Major, and just and what's and Pete, being the non-violent guy, right? And so, well, other characters I explain, like I picked like the native guy, the Asian guy, and then the guy, the asshole guy who overcame with a swarm of guilt and killed himself. And all the other people getting picked off one by one. And so, and then ultimately, one thing leading to another is when it's just the two of them. So when it comes down just the two of them, when they're reaching the goal line, right, and we see all the remaining soldiers, and there's this little bit of a crowd. Or there's this little bit of a crowd cheering, right, and so. But then Pete decides he's the one who wants him to Ray to live, because also there's another heartfelt moment where Ray sees his mom, Judy Greer, right? And he wanted to stop though, but she tells him to keep on going because he's still doing the race, right? So tells him to keep on going. He's like, Mom, sorry. Even though you did this voluntarily though, but still. So that was another moment there. But when Ray tells him to Pete to keep on going, he's like, no, I'm gonna do this because I want you to feel what you want to do, right? But then the twist, like it does in a lot of Stephen King stuff, Ray is the one who gets shot. Which I think in the book, if I'm wrong, Ray lives and Pete dies. So here the twist is the reverse. So Ray dies, which I just felt bad for because I loved this character, and Pete, he's the one now who's now the winner, and he's the one who gets the money, and his one wish is he wants a carbine, a rifle, right? And so what he does, he shoots the Major. He shoots Mark Hamill. Which part of me, yes, I wanted him to die. One thing is I don't like Mark Hamill, but I was like, yes, it was very satisfying. He shot the Major. And then what people are left with this ending, which is people will say, because after he shoots the Major, all the soldiers are gone as well as the crowd's gone, and now everything around him is empty, an empty street, right? And we see him continue on walking. Some people are making the accusation, oh, he's dead, right? That's why everything is so empty. They just disappear. Why everybody just disappeared all of a sudden. And then they're mentioned, and there is also an alternate ending where Pete doesn't shoot the Major. He drops the rifle. And then we see in text, which I don't know why they do this in text. They could have just shown this. That's another nitpick I have with the film, is why they could just show this instead of just having it in text. But we see, though, that he sent money to the families. Like, he sent the rosary to the Asian guy's grandma. He sent the money to, like, from that for the grandma, including the mom, Ray's mom, and was it I forget, was it the native guy or the dick, his family, I think. Either one of those, I think it was, but but in text it shows he did do it. So if people are assuming that he's dead in the theoretical ending, the alternate ending shows that he's alive because he sent the money in the rosary, right? And people are going to say, what about the people? Where they disappeared? Well, there was only a small handful of people on the side of the street, and there were very little soldiers left, right? And before he took the shot, there was nobody right behind him even beforehand. So people are saying, "Oh, he's dead. That's why there's nobody there, though." But in the alternate ending, it shows that he did survive and he did live. So because he sent the money in the rosary. So I don't really get the disclaimer of the "oh, he's dead" because, well, because it shows the fact that because okay, there were people there beforehand. There was only a little bit of people. It wasn't like a huge crowd like you see in a stadium, right? There was only a couple of there was only like a couple of soldiers with Mark Hamill, and then there was like a bit of a crowd, but it wasn't that huge of a crowd. So I just don't see how the people were thinking that he's dead when the alternate ending shows that he's alive. He sent the money and everything afterwards. So I think because I think the makers of the film, they want to have him showing that, have this big old shot that he's by himself. He's now alone now, and with nobody else. So they want to get this wide shot of him that he's now all alone by himself, walking into the distance, to get this, you could say it, this artistic looking shot. I think that's the reason, but I think that he is still alive. I don't think he's dead at all, even after when everyone, you say, disappeared. So I just think because if he's dead, then why in the alternate ending he's alive then, huh? Because by text, which I don't know why they don't show it him doing this stuff though, but he's alive, giving the stuff away, the money and stuff. I just don't get that disclaim that he's dead though. So, but that's a nitpick with him just showing the text that he did the stuff. Why couldn't they just show him doing it though? But other than that though, The Long Walk, I think this is a great film, except for Mark Hamill. Other than Mark Hamill, who was the only downbeat of this movie, but the acting was great. The premise, the concept was what I was intriguing and interesting. The score fit the film. When some of the stuff happens, the score fit this stuff in the film well. Especially the bonding of the characters, of all the characters I felt sorry for. I was emotionally invested with the characters, especially with the two leads here, who I just felt their bonding together throughout this whole ordeal. I felt that. And when Ray died, I really felt it. That just hit. That just really, it was like a sucker punch to the gut to me, But I felt bad for the other characters when they died. So yeah, but Mark Hamill. Why they get Mark Hamill? He was the only major, pun intended, problem with the movie. He was being, because let's say you give this all this drama, all the, you can say, horror bits or thriller parts, whatever, going on, right? When people are getting shot, people getting run over by tanks. I mean, just all of that, and then you just got the character development of chemistry with all these characters, and then you get Mark Hamill, which his acting just sticks out like a sore thumb, so out of place with the tone of the movie. It was almost like downbeating for me, because he was so over the top, campy. He was just so shitty, god awful. I mean, why? Who they could have got someone else again instead of Mark Hamill, right? I don't know who though, but just anyone could have been better than Mark Hamill, because Mark Hamill's a shitty actor anyway. I know, just take out Joker voice and Luke Skywalker from the original trilogy. What other film he has done? Otherwise, he's been a very shitty actor. Like my dad said, if it wasn't for that, from Star Wars, he would have been a nobody. So, but yeah, he was just almost kind of like dragging the film down for me. It's like I like Renfield, but the only thing that was a major problem was Aquafina, who I don't like either. It's like I like the rest of the film. It's just the one person I just don't like who's dragging the film down for me. Mark Hamill was the same. It was the same thing like this with Mark Hamill. But other than Mark Hamill, and then the little bit with the text, the alternate ending though. But this is a great film though. And yeah, I will still say it was kind of the best adaptation from Stephen King in a long time. Definitely better than the Running Man remake, and definitely better than the 2017, 2019 shit movies. Better than the Welcome to Derry TV show. So I think that Cooper Hoffman, I think he did a great job. And same with David Jonsson. They really nailed the film home for me. Felt that I really felt for these characters. Really have. So just like, yeah, like also back here from comingsoon.net. Haunting and absolutely riveting. A perfect movie. Well, thing is though, no movie is perfect though. So I think Mark Hamill's performance did not make this film a perfect movie, you know. But like I said, no movie is perfect in anybody's eyes. As you know, so but yeah, great character development, concept, score, chemistry, character development. I think I said that again, but just the drama, the thrills of it. But other than that, though, yeah, this is definitely why I thought this was one of my top three favorite films of this year. So like after this, now I'll just do the next video I'll do was my top three favorite films of 2025. So save me time since I once again are late on this thing again. So, but yeah, so that when I do the video, I'll save me time because I did the review of this, so you can check this out instead of But yeah, but that's my review for The Long Walk. Yeah, I would say yeah for Stephen King, this is definitely one of the better adaptations. Yes, although I would have been curious from back in the day if George A. Romero was still alive, I would have been curious to see his version of it. So. But I said I enjoy a lot of Stephen King films. Like I said, I love Maximum Overdrive, Graveyard Shift, Christine, The Shining. Oh yeah, still Silver Bullet. I also like that's another one I forgot to mention. Stephen King's Silver Bullet. I like Creep Show. One of the few films you see Leslie Nielsen going crazy. Yeah, Creep Show. Yeah, Leslie Nielsen. Yeah, that's one of the times you ever see him going crazy. Yeah, I forgot to mention Silver Bullet with Corey Haim and Gary Busey. That was definitely one of my a werewolf film I liked. You know, it's not my top three favorite werewolf movies, but I like Stephen King's Silver Bullet. I forgot to mention that one. So yeah, but it's definitely one of the better ones I've definitely easily one of the better adaptations I've seen in quite a long time. So yeah, so that's my review for The Long Walk. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next movie review. We'll see you next time. Later.